Oh, hello, hello, and welcome back to yet another NFL mock draft. Mock draft Monday, mock draft 2.0. It's always a wonderful little brain exercise. So let's get right in. Well, we got a bit of controversy here, so let me share my screen with y'all first and foremost. Make sure y'all can see this right here. All right. So we have a seven-way tie currently for the worst record in football. That is between the Browns versus the Raiders, the Saints, the Patriots, and the Giants, all sitting at 2-7 right now. So we have to. I'm going to edit the draft order a little. Who do I? Well, let's get those seven right here. The Titans are actually not 2-7; they're 2-6. Let's get them out of here. Uh, Browns, Raiders. Okay, wait. No, the Jets are not 2-7. The Jets, they're 3-6. Get them out of here. Got to get the Giants up. All right, so here's the top seven right here that are tied for the number one pick. What do I think is going to happen? I think that the Raiders and the Browns. I think the Browns are going to finish with the worst record. I'm gonna have the Browns the number one overall pick, and then I'm gonna have the Raiders as the number two pick because I think the Browns and the Raiders are so desperate for quarterback that they have no shame they need to secure one of these top two picks. I'll leave number three through seven. I'll leave that as it is. Then it's the Titans and the Dolphins. So we got the Titans. I think. One second. Let me move that here. We got the Titans down here at eight. It's so tough to move this shit. Then, like I said, the Dolphins, the Jets are right above the Dolphins. Then you have the Cowboys. It should be at 10 or 11, I should say. Then it's a three-way tie between the Colts, Bengals, and Seahawks. Move the Seahawks way down here. Oh, man. I like want to talk about the game today. I think the Colts will finish with the worst record. Seahawks then the Bengals between those three. Who next? And it's a four-way tie. Let me just make sure. Bucks, Rams, Niners, Bears. That's all accurate. I'm trying to make sure it's just as accurate as possible. Cardinals, Broncos should beat it right here. They just lost. Uh, Chargers by themselves right here. Then Falcons, Ravens, Texans should be way down here. I'm going to move the Ravens up. Sorry, there's no way the Ravens finish all the way down here. Uh, Anybody else? Packers just lost. I'll leave it like this. I'll leave it like this. All right. Enough talking, enough chit chat. Let's get straight into it. Thank you for watching. All right. Like I said earlier, the Browns and the Raiders, I have absolutely no doubt. They are the two most desperate teams in the league right now for a quarterback. There is no doubt in my mind that they are both willing to tank if it comes down to that point for one of these top two quarterbacks. That, of course, being Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward. I don't know why Jalen Milroe's up there. In the last mock draft, I believe I had the Browns taking Cam Ward with the first overall pick. Cam Ward is having the best season of any quarterback in college football right now. Shedeur Sanders, I think, is a more gifted thrower of the football. That's not saying Cam Ward doesn't have tremendous arm talent. He does. Both of these guys are more traditional pocket passers. I think both of these guys, though, have the kind of the bad side, I would say, of the Superman trait, where you can get away with it sometimes in college, but you see even at the college level, both of these guys struggle with extending the play past the point of no return and turning a bad play into a terrible play. That will not work at the next level whatsoever. Both of these guys got to get rid of that mentality. So last mock draft, I had the Browns taking Cam Ward. This time, I'll have them taking Shedeur Sanders as the number one overall pick. I think both of these guys, neither of them, I would say, are like generational blue chip level guys, but I think they're both top 10 caliber players. And considering the desperate need that the Browns and the Raiders have respectively, I think they both certainly will be going in the top five. And so Browns take Shedeur. I think the Raiders would be more than happy to get Cam Ward. I think the Raiders actually, as an offense, maybe are a little further ahead. I mean, they need desperate help at running back, but they already got Brock Bowers. You got well, in terms of receiver, you really don't got much. You got Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker. Yeah, it's rough. The Raiders, but you got Brock, you got Brock Bowers. That's about more than any, like that's more of a important weapon, I'd say, than anybody on the Browns offense. So Cam Ward and Shadur Sanders both off the board with the top two picks. Now the Panthers at number three here. I think Bryce Young lately has started to show some flashes. It's about damn time. It's been over a year now, but he is finally starting to show some capabilities here. If we look at who people think will get drafted here, it's absolutely not going to be a quarterback. It's just between, I think it still has to be receiver because outside of Xavier Legette, they really don't have anything. Jatavian Sanders, the tight end, has been coming on strong. I've liked what I've seen from him, but you definitely need another receiver here. The question is it a guy like Travis Hunter? Is it Tedoroa McMillan? I believe I gave them McMillan last time. I will give them Travis Hunter this time. I am now leaning towards Travis Hunter at the next level, being a guy who spends the majority of his time as a receiver. I think I've always had that opinion, but just be like with how the mock drafts have played out at certain positions here, like I've had him like I think I had him to the Jaguars as a cornerback primarily in the first mock draft. To the Panthers here, he would definitely be a wide receiver primarily, and he might even play like 90+% of his snaps at receiver. That's just what they would be looking out of him, to be honest. So I like that pick for the Panthers. The Patriots, number four. This is not going to change for me. Tedoroa McMillan would, now that I think about it, I was going to give them an offensive lineman here, but they really do desperately need a number one receiver. And Tedoroa McMillan, with his ridiculous physical traits and his amazing actual skills in terms of his shiftiness and his hands and his ability to win contested catches. I actually am going to I was going to give him an offensive lineman. I am going to give the Patriots Tedoroa McMillan now out of Arizona. I like that. Yeah, I like that better. It just makes more sense to me. Um, give Drake May a true bona fide number one option. The Jaguars are number five. They just traded away their left tackle, I believe. The Jaguars are on a fire sale. They're pretty much starting from scratch. They're going to fire their coach. It's all bad. So when we say they're starting over and it's a fire sale, they're going to strip this all away. And what will you have left if you're the Jaguars? Well, offensively, you're going to have Trevor Lawrence, Brian Thomas, maybe ETN. That's not even a guarantee at this point. Um, it's not about drafting. I mean, cornerback would be a need. I would understand the Will Johnson pick here, but in my opinion, if you're starting over, you just got to rebuild this offensive line. In my opinion, you got to draft the best offensive lineman available. Maybe it's a tackle, maybe it's a guard. Um, I think Will Campbell. I'm not sure about his arm length. I've heard before that he doesn't really have the arm length to play tackle at the next level. But you already have Anton Harrison, I assume, playing left tackle. Maybe you kick Will Campbell out to right tackle. But if you're the Jaguars and you are going to be starting over, protecting Trevor Lawrence and giving him enough time to throw has to be the number one priority. The Saints at six. I have no fucking clue. The Saints have lost their seventh game in a row now. On one hand, you certainly could make the argument for all of these next three teams, right? Even the next five teams, really, you could make the case for quarterback. The question is who really decides to pull the trigger and move on at QB. With the Saints, I have to assume their head coach is going to be getting fired. I don't think they're going to want Derek Carr, but the question is, are you comfortable? Because the Saints are in cap hell as well. The Saints really, if we break it down, are in one of the worst situations in football right now. Um, but is Jalen Milroe the guy for you? I'm just not sure. I would really like to see them improve this offensive line. It's tough, man. I really don't know. If you look at the analysis here, who people think are going to be drafted here, it's a lot of interior defensive line. But if this is my, if you're going to start over, how much? Because Mason Graham, if I would understand the Mason Graham pick if like the Saints were looking good or if the Saints are trying to fill a hole and compete next year. I feel like the Saints are fucked. I don't really see the point in drafting a guy like Mason Graham. I feel like I'd rather go out and try and address tackle or something like that. So I understand the Mason Graham pick, but I'm going to go in a different direction here. I'm going to try and help out the Saints offensive line by giving them Kelvin Banks. Um, whoever the future is at quarterback here. You drafted Fuaga last year in the first round. Get Kelvin Banks in there opposite of him, and hopefully you'll have your bookend offensive tackles moving forward for whatever the hell they decide to do. Because the Saints, it's a long road ahead of them, to be honest with you. The Giants here, if the Giants finish with a top seven pick, I have to assume at this point that they're willing to move on from Daniel Jones. He cannot continue to escape and evade replacement year after year. This has to be the year I feel like they move on from him. And Jalen Milroe, listen, he has not looked great at times. In the last 2 years, he's had his ups and downs. He has at times he has looked like the best quarterback in this entire draft class. At other times, he looks undraftable. He brings to the table elite athleticism, a great deep ball at times, but he struggles to read the field. He makes just bad decisions, throwing late, trying to every all the quarterbacks in this class have this Superman complex, trying to make every play a home run. They all have to drop that. It's Jalen Milroe is by far the youngest and the most raw prospect in this class. So maybe you can even, if you're the Giants, keep Daniel Jones for another year or at least start Daniel Jones at the start of next year. But if you do draft Jalen Milroe, it's going to be closer to an Anthony Richardson type situation where you're going to have to give him some time to really develop. But I mean, if you're the Giants, there's no way that Daniel Jones is the future for them. Uh, we have the Titans here at number 8. This usually has been a quarterback spot for me. I don't trust Will Levis. The Titans don't trust Will Levis. But in this situation here, I think the offensive line would certainly be in play, but I also think receiver would be in play. You just traded DeAndre Hopkins. The receiver core, it just doesn't look good. So in this situation, I would more than be on board for drafting a guy like Luka Burden here at number 8. He has not had the best year at Missouri. Missouri overall has not had a great year. Burden has been out with injuries. Missouri's quarterback room has been shaky at best. It's just not been a good year for Missouri. I don't blame that on Luther Burden. He showed us all he needed to in 2023, to be honest with you. He could have not played this year and still been a first round pick. So the Titans drafting Luther Burden, hopefully for them, he can emerge as a number one receiver for them in the long run. Dolphins at 9. This still needs to be offensive line for me. I mean, as long as Tua is the quarterback there, protecting him and giving him time to throw and, getting guys to help move the run game along. I mean, the Dolphins, as long as Mike McDaniels and Tua is the combination, it's pretty much set in stone what I want to do here. Um, let's see, move it down here. I think it's going to be the other tackle from Texas. I might have had him going here in the last mock draft. I'm not sure. Cam Williams, couple options here, really. I'll give him Cam Williams from Texas, a real physical specimen, if you will, has the prototypical size, arm length, all of that you want for a tackle. They got rid of Robert Hunt in the last offseason. Their offensive line protecting Tua, it just has to be the number one priority for the Dolphins. I know I said that for the Jaguars as well, I believe. The Jets here at 10. No idea what I've been wanting to do with the Jets. Their defense has been concerning for me, though. And you got Quinnen Williams in there. Mason Graham sitting here at number 10 just feels like too good of an opportunity to pass up on for the Jets. So I'm going to give them Mason Graham here, possibly the best defensive player in this entire draft, the first defensive player off the board here. And I feel like it's going to be one of those situations because all of these top teams, like I could see a team like the Saints drafting a defensive player. I could see the Jaguars drafting a cornerback, but I'm pretty confident these top four, if it's these top four, if it's these teams, the top 4 picks, I'm pretty confident all of them are going to be going offense. I feel like offensive line here is just more important for some of these teams than an interior defensive lineman. So even though Mason Graham, Will Johnson are very, very good, in my mind, there's other positions that are more important. The Cowboys here, this is a no-brainer. You can already see it right here. The dream get for the Cowboys here is Ashton Jeanty out of Boise State. He's breaking Barry Sanders type records right now in college football. The Cowboys have the worst run game in the fucking planet. It is embarrassingly bad. They cannot run the football. I think Dak had their biggest run today for like 20 yards against the Falcons. It's bad. It's bad for the Cowboys. They have a young offensive line for the most part. They just need help, man. Rico Dowdle is not the breaking news. Rico Dowdle is not the answer in Dallas. They need more help there. The Colts here at 12. I really could get behind a Colston Loveland right here. It's just for the Colts, their quarterback play is what's holding them back. I think they have 4 good wide receivers. I think they have a great running back. The offensive line, I mean, I'm not going to blame them. Defense, I think they've played well. It's like, I think quarterback definitely is what's holding them back. But at number 12, you're staring Will Johnson in the face. That absolutely has to be the pick for me right here for the Colts. Put him on the opposite side of Julius Brents, and you have a very, very good uh, cornerback duo there moving forward. But the Colts, I mean, they should be better than they are in terms of just their roster, but we'll see if Anthony Richardson ends up being the answer there. It's my Seahawks at number 13. Listen, I understand that Gino has had his ups and downs this season. In the most recent game, we lost the game because Gino threw a terrible, horrible pick six in the fucking. It was like 105 yards. It was terrible. I don't even want to talk. But there is no quarterback that we can draft right here that is going to fix the situation. I wouldn't mind trading for a guy like Michael Penix to come in. That would be my dream scenario, to be honest with you. But in terms of what we do with this draft pick, it has to be the offensive line. The Seahawks offensive line is fucking terrible. We can't run the ball. We can't block. We can't not commit penalties. The Seahawks offensive line is a joke. It's an embarrassment. And this pick just has to be an offensive lineman. I just don't care. I would absolutely not mind trading this pick in like a third rounder to get Michael Penix. But if we keep this pick, fuck it. Give me Ariante Ursary from Minnesota. Play him at right tackle. Play him at right guard. I don't care. We need help. Somebody, anybody, please help the Seahawks offensive line. Bengals at 14. This is interesting. The Bengals have begun to play better as of late. I still think, in my opinion, the biggest need would be interior defensive line here. Receiver, listen, if the only way that receiver would really be a need for me is if they're going to move on from T. Higgins. Didn't they already give him an extension though? Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong thing, but if T. Higgins is a Bengal moving forward, I really don't see how receiver is a really big need for them. I would go with Kenneth Grant here out of Michigan, pair him with the guy they drafted last year. What is his name? Chris Jenkins, I believe. So have a double Michigan front right there in the middle. Yeah, Bengals D line beef it up a little bit, stop the run, and complement this offense a little better. Rams at 15. This is a tough one. They just won this today against my Seahawks. I don't believe they're going to make trades in terms of Cooper Kupp, so I have to assume that guys like Matthew Stafford are going to continue to be there long term. If that's the case, well, what do? I think cornerback here would be their number one priority here. I think they've already given Tre'Davious White permission to seek a trade. Darius Williams is way past 30. I think Benjamin Morrison here out of Notre Dame is the best cornerback on the board, and they need help at cornerback. So Rams, best fit, best player available at corner. Buccaneers at 16. This is tough, man. The Buccaneers, they lost their top two receivers, their two top players on offense to injury. So they're going to look pretty bad, I think, offensively moving forward. But I don't think the offense is what they should address here. I think it's going to be secondary or defensive line. Defensive line, though, an edge rusher has not gone off the board yet in this mock draft, which means the Buccaneers are going to have their pick of whoever the fuck they want. In that case, let's take a look because there's a lot of guys. There really is. Nick Scorn, T. Overton, Abdul Carter, Michael Williams. There's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys here. I'm gonna go with James Pierce out of Tennessee. He was like a number one overall pick, like preseason. He hasn't played a bad year at all. I think he's been, more than fine, pretty good actually. If you're taking your pick, give him James Pierce, line him on the other side, opposite of Yaya Diab. You already got Kalijah Kancey up the middle. The Buccaneers in this situation now have a handful of young defensive linemen. 49ers. If they finish like this, I would have to assume that the offense was just not able to get going. So I would not mind in this situation drafting an offensive lineman. But I also wouldn't mind drafting another edge rusher, pair him opposite of Nick Bosa. I think I did this last time, if I'm not mistaken. Cornerback, yeah, you could make the case. But I mean, the Niners have just been hiring a guy or getting 1 year rentals on Chase Young, Leonard Floyd. It's just all these different guys. How about draft one and develop him and make him into this premier guy next to Nick Bosa? Give me Michael Williams out of Georgia here for the Niners at 17. He has been dominant at times at Georgia. He has a lot of physical upside here. For the Niners, it's always like tackle or cornerback here, but I think they could go in a different direction. Bears at 18. This, in my opinion, should be offensive line. There's really nothing else I could even think of. They're pretty complete defensively. They played a really bad game against the Cardinals in real life today. And it's because I think they couldn't move the ball offensively. I don't think they scored a single touchdown. They need to do a better job protecting Caleb Williams. giving him time to throw. If you take a look at the options here, Josh Simmons out of Ohio State, Emory Jones at LSU. If you want to go interior offensive line, you got Tyler Booker, got Savanaia, guys like that. I'm gonna give him Josh Simmons out of Ohio State. Put him at right tackle, most likely. I think, or is Darnell Wright already playing right tackle? Who knows? Draft a tackle, maybe kick him at guard to start his career. The goal is offensive line here if you're the Bears, in my opinion. Cardinals at 19. I also think offensive line is a big need for them, but I think pass rusher also. Interior defensive line, I don't really see right here. Maybe you got a guy like Deion Walker out of Kentucky. Um, you got Zaven Collins right there as kind of the stud in your front seven. Man, it's a lot of things you could do here. It's really just best player available, in my opinion, defensively. There have not been that many guys off the board yet in terms of pass rusher. I think if you're the Cardinals here, you could still get a really good. There's a chance here if you're the Cardinals that you could get your number one pass rusher, like the guy who had going into the draft, whoever you think the best is. Let's just say hypothetically, the Cardinals think Nick Scorton is the best, edge rusher in the draft. Like he's sitting right here at 19 for you. So draft him, play him opposite of the guy you got last year. I think it's Darius Robinson from Missouri, and I like what they're doing there in that hypothetical situation. Broncos at 20. It just has to be receiver for me. But here's the thing, Isaiah Bond is like listed as the number one receiver right here. If Isaiah Bond was just this, if he was just this monster that everybody is saying he is, he'd have more than like 350 yards, which is what he has right now. He has just not been a difference maker at Texas so far this year. And he's been fine. They have a lot of guys, a lot of options at receiver. But when I watch Isaiah Bond, I do not see first round guy for me. It's just, and maybe he's a guy who he probably is a guy who, he'll play better at the next level than he did in college, but I just don't see it. Emeka Egbuka for me is just a much better option here. And the wide receiver class, really, outside this top three, it kind of does fall off just a little bit. I like guys like Xavier Restrepo, Trey Harris. Where is he? Trey Harris out of Ole Miss. Did I miss him or something? There he is. Trey Harris, um, Xavier Restrepo, guys like that. But Isaiah Bond, I really do not think he's that good. So give me Emeka Egbuka to the Broncos at number 20. Chargers, it's just going to be Colston Loveland for me. If there was a guy like, if there was what's his name? The guy we saw earlier out of Michigan. If there was a Kenneth Grant right here available, I would support that. I think edge rusher could be an option as well. But Colston Loveland, I'm starting to see some of the hype from him. Even though the Michigan, listen, they have a non-existent pass game. But even with that being said, Colston Loveland as a tight end still manages to contribute and put up a pretty good stat line over there. So I'm buying into the hype of him being a first-round pick. And obviously, if a good Michigan player is available, John Harbaugh is probably going to draft him. Or is it Jim Harbaugh? Jim Harbaugh, I think, is probably going to draft him. So Falcons at 22 here. It just has to be defensive line here. There is no other option. The Falcons have generated a historically bad pass rush so far this season. That has to be addressed one way or another. Let's take a look here. Let's just include all these guys, see what pops up here. Abdul Carter, LT Overton, Jack Sawyer, Deion Walker. Where is he? Jalen Walker down here. I'm going to go with Abdul Carter out of Penn State. Very versatile guy. Started his career as a stand-up linebacker, then switched to more of an edge rusher this year. He can line up inside as well. Very versatile, impacts the game in multiple ways. Very twitchy, fast pass rusher off the edge. I think the Falcons could make use of him, pair him up, I think, with Arnold Ebiketie, former Penn State player himself. I don't know if they were teammates or not, but the Falcons just need help, man. It's bad right now. Eagles at 23. They somehow managed to win this week after trying their hardest. The Eagles were fucking point shaving this week against the Jaguars, but they managed to win. I'm not going to give them edge rusher or linebacker. It's just I'm not going to do it. They drafted every fucking year. If that's the case, though, who are we looking at? I would say offense. Well, actually, let's take a look around here. I think I did this last time with them, and if I did, I think I'm just going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to give the Eagles the best DB available right now. That's Malachi Starks out of Georgia. We already know about the Georgia connection with Philadelphia, but you got C.J. Gardner-Johnson right now. It's kind of the weak link in this Eagles secondary. You're already shown that you're willing to draft young players. Last year, you drafted multiple starters of the secondary. And hypothetically speaking here, if we move forward here, if you draft Malachi Starks, you got Malachi Starks and Blankenship in the back end. Then you got Darius Slay for probably one more year. And then Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. I really like this potential secondary here from the Eagles if they were to draft Malachi Starks, replace C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He's on a one-year rental, I believe. I just do not think you have to draft fucking linebacker or edge rusher every single year. So I like that pick by the Eagles. Texans at 24 here. It has to be. It just has to be offensive line. CJ Stroud has been pressured way too fucking much this year. So let's see here. Is it tackle or is it guard? I'm not sure. Kenyon, this is how bad it's been. Kenyon Green got hurt and he's out for the year, and Texans fans are happy about it. So that lets me know that they need desperate help at guard. Draft Tyler Booker out of Alabama, possibly the best interior offensive lineman in this class. Steelers, it's going to be wide receiver for me. Um, is it going to be the same pick as it was? You got Isaiah Bonson in here. I'm not as high on him as I am some other guys, but he does have electric elite speed. Maybe he'll take the top off the defense and give them some more explosive play ability there. So I'll give the Steelers Isaiah Bond right there at 25. Ravens at 26. This one's tough for me. I could really see receiver here, but the receiver I would give them, well, is it cornerback? Is it offensive line? I'll give him a receiver, to be honest with you. Cornerback, it's just, if we take a look at cornerback, the top cornerback on the board for me is the guy who's out for the year, Denzel Burks. Man, I don't know. Because when I look at Ravens cornerback, I see Nate Wiggins and Marlon Humphrey already. I know the other guy, forget his name. He hasn't been terrible, so I really don't think cornerback is this glaring need for the Ravens. I would say offensive line, to be honest with you. So let's go there. Take a look here. Emory Jones. Yeah, I'll give him Emory Jones at LSU. Makes the most sense to me because sorry, Isaac Gardner if he needs to, then kick out maybe the right tackle. Vikings at 27 here. Offense has struggled as of late, mainly due because of Sam Darnold. I will give him the cornerback, though. I'll give him the guy out of Eastern Carolina or Coastal Carolina. I think it's Eastern Carolina. Yeah, East Carolina. Siobhan Revel, ridiculous size and speed combo. Unfortunately, did suffer a season-ending injury, but they need help there. They've had literal tragedy in their cornerback room. Their fourth-round pick from last year died. Kyrie Jackson, rest in peace. So they need help there. Bills at 28. Speaking of DBs that died temporarily, I'm sorry, that was a terrible joke. Bills at 28 here. I could see linebacker, I could see D line here. It's between Deion Walker, Danny Stutzman, and Xavier Restrepo for me right now for the Bills. Honestly, man, just thinking of Restrepo though on the Bills with Josh Allen improvising, doing some shit. Restrepo, if you do not know, has been an absolute monster for Miami this year. I'm going to get Restrepo in the first round of every single mock draft I do. His potential is just through the roof for me. At the next level, he is so shifty, such good hands. I absolutely think this guy is a first round pick. Packers at 29 for me. It's usually a cornerback, but we just had Revo go off the board. Maybe we go maybe we go tackle here for the Packers. Let's see who's on the board here. Maybe it's the guy from Clemson, Blake Miller, Milam. I don't know, man. I'm not seeing a lot of options here. I do not know how far this class goes. There's a lot of tackles off the board so far. Maybe I go somewhere else then. Maybe they don't reach for a tackle. Let's see here. Let's give him Deion Walker, the massive, just huge person out of Kentucky, a freak of nature, truly. Put him in the middle of the defensive line and let him stuff the run. Pretty safe pick there for the Packers at the end of the first round. Commanders here at 30. I'm gonna give him edge rusher. There's a lot of good options right now available. Cornerback, not really anybody I can think of. They need to generate some more pass rush in DC. So let's see here. OT Overton, Jack Sawyer, Princey Amali Allen. Still got JT Tuimoloau. A lot of guys. But there's going to be some guys in the second round that get drafted that are absolutely first round talents. I'm going to give him LT Overton out of Alabama. Has been wreaking havoc this year for the Crimson Tide defense. The Lions, I usually do give them interior offensive line because it just feels like that's the whole identity of this team. I'm going to continue to do it. I'm going to give him Savanai Ia out of Arizona. They got a 1 year rental right now from the right guard. I believe he's from the Ravens last year. He's an older player. They're not going to have him long term. Draft his replacement this year in the first round. And then the Chiefs, they can literally do anything. Let's think about this, though, logically. I think it has to be a running back, to be honest with you, because you got Pacheco. He's been hurt this year. They've got guys like Kareem Hunt to come back. But why not just draft Pacheco's long-term replacement and get him for 5 years? If they do spend this first-round pick on a running back, you get him for 5 years on a pretty cheap deal. Relative to other guys, but I like the idea of drafting a guy like Amarion Hampton just to be a real bruiser back there for the Chiefs and not have to think about running back for years on end if you draft a guy like him in the first round. That's going to be it for this mock draft, second edition. It's going to be tough, man. The middle of this draft, it's so tough to think about what some of these teams like the Niners and the what's it called? The Niners and the Eagles and the Rams, Buccaneers. There's just so many different things, like the Colts. There's so many different things they could do. But overall, I'm happy with this mock draft. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new. Let me know what your team, what you want them to do. And I will see all of you all in the next one. Peace.